Hello, stroke warriors and families everywhere. Welcome back to Stroke Warrior Radio, where recovery finds its voice. Today, we're joined by a good friend of Stroke Warrior Radio that's been with us a lot. Um, Welcome, Louise Harris. Hi, Louise.
Hi, Ralph. How you
Good to
doing?
see you again.
And you?
Tell our listeners, I love what you're doing with what is strength after stroke, right?
Stronger Than Stroke podcast.
Stronger Than Stroke is your podcast. Tell us about that.
So, the podcast, as you've just said, is called Stronger Than Stroke. So, it's all about, it's the after, isn't, we've had the stroke. So now we've got to get stronger. And I teamed up with a lady that reached out to me, a stroke survivor called Myra. And we got on we're like sisters from other places. And we just, we get on so well chatting about stuff. And I'm real raw and authentic. I'm going to say it as it's happening. And it's my words, my experience, my opinion. And same for Myra. So we just generally chat with each other and, we'll aim to get more people on and just, building a community of people that have been through the experience of stroke. And it doesn't matter how you come out the other end, but if you survive, there's hope. There is
Yeah,
hope.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's the first step in understanding. You get up every morning. How many stroke people do not get up the next morning? There's a lot out there that pass away.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing we have to realize, I think.
Oh, yeah. Well,
One of the things, go ahead.
every stroke is different, isn't it? Every stroke is completely different.
Yes, completely. But they're similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I know that both you and I are single recovering um, survivors. In other words, we don't have care partners. We don't have a bunch of people coming out to help us. Um, how I had a hard time getting through, getting myself motivated, getting myself going. How do you motivate? And I know I have a feeling I know your answer, but how do you do that? How do you self-motivate?
Well, I think, like I said, my number one thing is that I survived. As you know, all victims, they don't make it. So that's my number one thing. And number two, I've just got my brain just tells me if you want your life back, you got to fight for it, Louise.
Exactly. Yeah, one of the hardest things being individual survivors is we don't have that what do you call information. We don't have the groups to help us get through. Where do you find the information to get you going? One of the things I've said before, I love your videos. You do the exercise on the steps, you do the exercise on your checkerboard rug, those kind of things. Where do you find that stuff?
Right. So, what I first did, I was in hospital for 8 weeks. And at some point in that term of being in hospital, one of the occupational therapists brought me a book that's written by another survivor. So that's the first thing I did, is because when you've had this, you want knowledge. So I thought I'll read somebody else's story. What I took from that book, um, and what really stood out to me was that she went on about that you don't see the progress like right in your face. It can be very subtle. Um, and the only way to recognize your progress is by taking videos of yourself. I didn't like the idea of it, but I read that, and of course, it is that you can't, you got to take a video at the beginning of the week, do your exercise in the week, what you can, and take a look at a video at the end of the week, because that's how you see the progress.
Yes.
Because I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but I don't notice my own progress. And I think why I don't notice it is because any other survivor, it doesn't happen quick enough. So, as you know, you can be doing an exercise and doing it for weeks, doing it for months, and not feel like you've gained anything. But suddenly you can have a really good night's sleep, and the next day you can see that you've improved. You know, it's such, you know yourself, any survivor, this is not a linear journey. So,
For sure.
to wrap it up, I got my physio exercises from the hospital, from the neurophysios and whatever. So, give me all those exercises. And I focused on doing those exercises, but recording it. Because then also for me, I've got to do it because I've got to record it. I opened up an Instagram, called it Great Sassy Survivors, because we're all survivors. We're all great. And I put the videos up there. So if any other survivor comes across it, because I couldn't find anyone like me, they can just see it. Whether they want to start looking at how well I'm doing versus them, which we all know we can't do that. But it just gives everyone a little, try this, try that, try whatever you can. And that's
You
what it
know,
all.
this is our catchphrase for Stroke Warrior Radio, catch the wave, warriors achieving victories every day. It takes a long time to understand that those little teeny extra steps that you can take, extra movements that you made,
Yeah,
um, they add up. I mean, maybe today I can only walk 3 steps without the walker, but tomorrow I can do 6, and like you said, it's hard to recognize that, and we have to measure what we're doing, I
that's
think,
it.
and set some goals.
Well, that's it. And it's like you, because your body's not working like it used to automatically, unless you see yourself in a mirror as well. You don't know whether you're holding your arm in the right place. Do you know what I mean? So
Yes,
I'm very good to try and get yourself to that place where you will video yourself and only focus on that you're doing an exercise for stroke recovery. It's not to look at yourself in any other way. It's just to see the improvements and try it once a week. You got to start somewhere.
very true. Very true. And you don't have to have 30 minutes of exercise 4 times a week. You don't
No,
have to have, a set bunch of exercises, somewhat set, but you have to be consistent and repetitive.
you've just got to do it. And you know what? It's like I say I was so completely hemiplegic. The right side of my body was gone from the top to the bottom. So my limbs were like pieces of spaghetti, just, my body doesn't recognize it. They're just hanging there. So, and it's been really hard. And look, 3 years of doing the same thing. But all I know is to get myself going, my affected side, I had to use my good side. So I'm right side affected. So early days, it was literally using my left hand to pick my affected arm up. I did 5 times. That's how I started. It was,
Wow.
yes, it was a
Yeah.
slow process.
And you don't need a bunch of exercise equipment. You don't
No,
need, you
no,
know,
no.
you just have to, I mean, that's brilliant. Use your good hand to exercise your bad hand. I love that.
Well, because it's right. I mean, I was that survivor. There was nothing moving that side. Didn't matter what I did. But I can't keep still naturally. I got to be moving. So that's how I started it. So it's, I have got other survivor friends that's what I've done with them is they couldn't find their way out of that hole. But it's use your good hand. my head as well was very much the left side still working. So, I talk to my right side like a mad woman, telling it, you did it before, you'll do it again.
I love it. Yeah, it's and I think one of the things that you're so damn positive, but I know I bet you anything that you've been through those points in time where you said, "Ah, shit, I'm not doing this anymore."
Oh
How,
my God. Now, if I wake up and I'm feeling like that, don't know if I'm supposed to, but it is, it's go to hell. I don't do a
yeah,
thing. I don't do a
yeah,
thing. I'll just rest all day, feel sorry for myself, have a cry. I do that. But the next day, that's where you can wake up. And it's that if you don't do it, no one's coming to save you. So,
exactly. Well, and
it's
I think you and I gave ourselves permission to do that. You know, we get depressed or we hit a plateau or whatever you want to call it, and we say, I'm not doing this anymore. You
no,
know, but that's okay. It
yes,
was okay to go through those times.
yes, absolutely. If you don't want to do anything, don't do anything. But it is
Yeah,
always remember, no one's coming to save you. So it is a case of get to the point of having a word with yourself. Because at the end of the
yeah.
day, have choice. And I get that a
Put a
lot.
word with yourself. I like that.
Yeah. Well, people, it's like, oh, well, you're so strong. Am I? Am I? Is that right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. That's
patient, and it's only because what I know, no one's coming to do it for me. So if I don't get over the attitude and just do it,
yeah,
move
yeah.
it,
Exactly.
or you lose it.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. Again, consistency and repetitiveness.
Absolutely.
Did you find um you mentioned crying. I know I've been through that. Did
Yeah.
have I don't know how to ask this without sounding so terrible. But
No,
for example, I've told people before I sat in front of a bottle of Jack Daniels and my pain pills a couple times. I was done, you know. If it wasn't for the pictures of my grandchildren on the wall, I don't know if I'd be here and my children. But but we're gonna go through those times.
yeah.
Were you prepared for that? Did you expect that?
Is anyone prepared for that? I don't
No.
think preparing for it. All I know is that, like you just said, we could all do that. We could all wake up and think, do you know what, I've had enough and just swallow the pills, whatever. For me, personally, that's the easy way out, And it's like you just said, Ralph, you saw it in your grandkids, the photos of those. And when you've got something like that to focus on, you're going to show those grandkids you don't quit in life. This is how it's done.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I
So,
moved in with my youngest daughter after a while after my stroke, and two of my grandkids were there, and it
yeah,
was so cathartic being with them because they didn't pay attention to my walker. It was like, okay, grandpa's grandpa, and he's just got a tool. You know,
exactly.
I mean, and we have to get that childlike look at ourselves, I think
Yes.
sometimes to understand. I always compared myself to being a toddler. I'm learning to walk again. I'm learning to do.
But that's exactly what it's like, isn't it? Stroke is, I've learnt this, Ralph, prior to this, and this is what, if I have a day of where I've got tears, it's the lack of awareness prior to this because everything was so automatic. So I, as every other human does, took everything for granted. Everything. And it's only something as severe as this where that automatic working doesn't work anymore. And what are you going to do about it? But what we know is how amazing up here is. And neuroplasticity, it keeps going. Yes, there are people that struggle because it depends on where your stroke is or whatever. But if it's been cut off, if you keep moving it, it's going to make another path. And it's also this about, I've done a bit of like learning what your body is. And we're electric. It's electric circuits. Hydro. If we got no hydro, we got no electric. You got to drink water. We're full of water. There's so many things. So that's what I'm saying. What I've done, I'm aware. I've become aware, more aware of my body, more aware of how my leg works, how it's attached to the body. I never gave a shit before, Ralph, because I took it for granted. So I can just say that I feel I'm coming out the other end. I'm not coming out there. I've got a long way to go. But 3 years and my repetitiveness, I've got a long way to go. But it's working. It's
Yes,
every time I put that right foot forward, that's another, like you said, that's a brick to the building that I'm creating. The building is the new highway of how it works. So,
exactly. Well, and you mentioned awareness. I think a lot of us, and for me, it took a while before I used that awareness to focus on intentionality in
yes.
what I did. I had to intend to do this. I had to intend to learn this. I
Yeah.
had to intentionally do some research. There was a lot of, there's all kinds of information out there. I mean, the internet is just chock full of it. But I will say, please be cautious about what you read on the internet. Check it and make sure it's a correct website or whatever, because the information can be bad. But there's some good stuff out there,
There's all,
especially put out by other stroke survivors.
and that where I'm coming in with the other thing is it's finding survivors and just and befriending with them because they're the experts. They are the experts.
That's right.
You know, and that's what
That's
I'm saying.
right.
When you talk to a stroke survivor, it's like you're talking a different language that the rest of the world doesn't understand. Only someone that's experienced stroke understands because it's an invisible injury. Like you can see the ailments if you walk in different or whatever, but the actual injury is completely invisible because it's in here.
Yeah. Well, and for some of us, I mean, that I don't use a walker or cane anymore. You can't tell I've had a stroke. I have a
Yeah.
little bit of a limp, but that could be from anything. But
No.
I still have issues. I
Yes.
still have poor sleep sometimes. I still have pain. I still have forget what I'm doing. Those kind of things still happen.
And sensory, isn't it? Because that's the other thing about it's everything that you see, it's everything you smell, it's all your senses. Like everything is like, whoa, overwhelming. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're we're pretty
I
special.
go, I'm sorry.
I said I think our stroke survivors are pretty special people.
I have to agree.
Yeah,
That's funny you say that. I've often mentioned to other people that the stroke community is probably the most open, caring, and friendliest community I have ever been involved in. And I've
because
been involved in all kinds of organizations. But
because we all
we,
survived. We survived.
that's it. That's it. That's a special club. You're right. And it's mine was the most difficult thing I ever did, but it became the most rewarding. I learned a lot about myself.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, that's why I said the word awareness. Look, I'm so aware, too aware. Oh yeah, very, very. I've always listened to my body, but again, I'm just going back to this experience, as horrible as it is and as hard as it is. It's amazing what the brain and the body can do. It's amazing. Like, who made this?
Yeah, exactly. You know,
It's
it's fun too. At some point, at least for me, at some point it became fun to see those improvements, to um, see the challenges, even the bad things that have happened. It
yeah,
became fun to see how the hell am I going to get through this?
yeah,
And
that's true.
I do something so damn weird. It's like,
Yeah,
wow, I
yeah,
got through it with that something that's dumb. You know, it can be fun too. I
That-
learned a lot of I learned patience. I have a
yeah,
lot more patience than I ever did.
yeah,
Um, my temper's a lot less than it was
yeah.
way before my stroke. I always had a bad temper. I don't have it now. So there's some positives that come out of it that you don't realize unless you're aware and choose to recognize them.
And I think that for me, I think I can't speak for everyone, but I think there's got to be a point in most survivors' journeys that they realize they're becoming more aware. They didn't want to, but they've got to. You've got to.
Yeah, we do
When,
have to make it's a
oh,
choice.
yeah.
It definitely is a choice. You mentioned something about other survivors. You weren't cover in therapy clinics or anything for a long time. How did you find other survivors? I mean, you weren't part of a clinic, you weren't part of the health service cut you off. So,
Well, what I did get with the NHS is I got it. It almost felt like once they got you up out of bed and you were stood on your feet out the door, because obviously the NHS, they don't have room. And what I've noticed here in the UK, they've gone more now. They'll help people more that want to help themselves. But if they've got that typical, a lot of people, isn't it? I'm going to say this, controversial or not. A lot of people would love a pill. Give me a pill, swallow the pill, back to perfect health. But the reality of that is we all know it's bullshit. that
yeah,
don't It's the way we treat ourselves. So the NHS over here now, I've noticed that if you are somebody with the mindset of that you want to help yourself, they'll throw everything at you. They'll do everything to help you. But if you're someone that, smokes 40 fags a day, drinks whatever, but just not helping yourself in any shape or form, they move on.
makes sense. That
They'll do
makes sense.
they give the basic care that they have to. But if you're someone that is not going to help yourself, but if you do show that you can, and again, I understand that you can have a stroke and there's nothing moving. That was what happened to me. um but it is about that, isn't it? Are you getting comfortable just letting your brain be lazy while it recovers and just expecting people to bring the meal there for you? And some people get comfy, never been looked after before. Perfect time to do it. But it's also what I've noticed, Ralph. I'm probably jumping all over now.
That's all
A
right.
big that I've noticed, and you said about survivors, where have I found them? I tried a community group when I first come home. I tried it. I couldn't go back because I'm one of those, look, I can't spend too long around a lot of people that have just accepted this is where I'm at. Because they tend to complain about everything, but they've accepted. I can't because I know that you can make improvements. So I'm one of those, look, I've got to, and that's why when I'm on my own, look, that's why I'm up and I'm up and walking. Up in the morning, I'm outside. I can't walk far, but I just do a couple of steps, because every step is a block to the building that you're creating. So,
And I lost my train of thought. Okay, see, there's one of them cognitive things. Yeah, I think, well, one of the things, and you did it, and I finally did it after 6 years, is again, it's a choice. You can go to a support group, you can do the research online, find support groups. There's loads of support groups on social media, whatever. But you have to put the work in, or I had to put the work in to find the right support group. Because, like you said, there's people in there that their care partner does everything for them.
Yeah,
They don't want to do a darn thing. They let their care partner do it.
yeah,
We didn't have that luxury. Um, but I don't think it's a luxury at all. That you have to make a choice that you want to get better. You have to make a choice on talking to other survivors that help motivate you,
yes,
get you through those negative points, get you through those plateaus. So, yeah, the support groups out there, there's some that are fantastic, some that are great, and some that are really crap.
yeah,
So you really have to be careful what you're getting yourself into. Please pay attention, and I'm talking directly to listeners in particular. Please pay attention to the people in there, the attitudes, and how it fits with your own personality. That makes a huge difference in your recovery.
it does.
You don't have to care about your recovery. You're there for my recovery.
Yeah,
I'm there for my recovery. And
yeah,
that's some people don't understand that. I mean, it sounds it sounds self-centered, but it's not. It's selfish. I think there's a difference between the two words. Selfish is a good thing.
yeah.
Self-centered is not.
You've got to be selfish in this. You've got to be, like you just said about any group. I'm not going to stay in any kind of group that doesn't serve me something. So I'll move on, like you said. And for me personally, back to what I'm starting to notice and how I got stroke survivors is starting the Instagram really look. And it's organically grown. I just put them up. I don't do anything to advertise myself. It's just there. What I know is obviously you must know as well is that strokes now globally are at the rate of there is one happening. Somebody out there is experiencing a stroke every 3 seconds. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
There's millions of people this is happening to. And I know it takes so much away from you, just click of a finger. You're confident, everything, you're stripped of everything. So what you're talking about here, Ralph, about people connecting with people, you people can connect with the radio station, look, Stroke Warrior Radio. You can connect through Stronger Than Stroke because you can write comments. I've had people put comments. I've had people look at me on the Instagram look, and they just DM me. They send me a private message look, and it'll just be someone randomly saying, "How long did it take you to get your hand working again? I've got no movement." So we just start talking like that, and then I tend to get my videos that are around my hand, and I'll send them personally to them and say, "This is what I did. This is what I was trying anything. This is what it was like. This is what I've got it to." It's just sharing information
Well,
and
and
that.
I think one of the things you took advantage of was time. You weren't working anymore. So you took the time to go through social media. You took the time to do some research and Google stuff.
Yeah,
You took, you know, don't sit there and go, woe is me. You can sit down and go through social media and find other survivors. That's how we found each other was Instagram.
that's right.
That's where we started. So, I mean, there's other people out there, and luckily I've been gotten blessed by God. I've done over 1,500 of these interviews. I mean, my community is so awesome.
Yeah,
But there's probably about 500 interviews that I won't even broadcast. I mean,
yeah.
we're so negative. You know. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah, look, you see, I'm getting ready to jump in because look, I'm very fatigued. So you know what it's like. If you don't say it when you
Yeah.
remember, the one thing I'm starting to correlate is negative speech. The brain does not like it.
No.
And I'm going to go this far and say it. One of the biggest areas for negativity is within the healthcare. If you've got a neurologist that talks negative to you, if you've got a nurse or an occupational therapist or a physio, any of them tell you something negative because it's like we're on hyper vigilance to negative words. You know, we're waiting for someone to say, you're going to be great. You're going to be 100% better again. Like, so we're very vigilant to what people are saying. But I have noticed, and I've spoken to a lot of other survivors, that the minute that they go to an appointment and maybe a doctor, a consultant says, well, maybe you've got to start getting used to the fact that it's not going to come back, the length of time that it's not been, you know, stuff like that. Right. That's happening out there. And I'm like this. I, you know, all the years that these people go to medical school and whatever, it's brilliant. And we all need them. We all trust them. We all believe in them. But when they step over the line and start using the God complex, telling you what your body's going to do, when number one, they've never suffered it themselves, they really don't know what they're talking about. They're talking about what they've learned through the books, you know. So they are, you know, the professionals, book professionals. But when it comes to a survivor, and that is what I'm finding. Negative speech will do nothing but hold you back. So when you wake up in the morning, if you're in that mindset of, oh, you're going to have a bad day. But if you wake up and train your brain that the first thing you do when you open your eyes is go, thank you for another day. Doesn't matter what the
Yeah.
day's like. Doesn't matter if you end up getting up and you can't even bloody walk because you're so exhausted, you know, because it's not linear. So you might not
No.
that day, but 2 days later you could be fantastic.
Well, and nobody ever promised that it would be easy either.
No, the best things in life aren't easy, are they?
Yeah, I was talking to a really world-renowned therapist yesterday, and I asked him, why is it that as good as this is good as it's going to get, or you're not going to recover any more than this, is sticking around so long? And he told me, he said that the medical profession takes around, not just the profession, the whole medical community takes 17 years to get new stuff into the pipeline.
Yeah.
So this whole neuroplasticity has taken maybe what, 5, 10 years now that it's been prevalent. We still got another 7 years before it catches up with the
That,
whole medical community.
but there's another word. Is it neurogenesis? Neuro. It's not just neuro,
Yes.
but there's lots of medical, but it's what the brain does. What the brain does. So when they start saying this is good as no, stop it. It's only as good as that because
Change the doctor.
they need to do a different exercise.
Yeah, exactly. When you hear that, it's time to fire them. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I found that out after a long time. I'm captain of my own team, right? I can
Yeah,
fire and hire my own doctors and therapists.
that's the way. But it's positivity. And it's
Yes.
hard to live when you've had a brain stroke.
Well, I wanted to talk about NHS and Medicare today, but we're running out of time, believe it or not. So
Because
I'm going to hit you with a couple quick fire questions, if you
we'll go,
will. How
yeah.
has your definition of success changed?
It's a really good. Oh, how has my definition of success changed? Well, waking up, Ralph. Waking up is the biggest success because you don't know if you're going to until you wake up.
Keep it simple, stupid. Kiss.
But
What's something you believe today that you didn't believe 20 years ago?
how incredible the brain is. I never realized 20 years ago, I've never realized my entire life how absolutely awe inspiring inside that scalp is. And we
That's
only know
cool.
a tiny bit about it.
What part of your own thinking has evolved the most?
Never say never. Never say never.
I like it. I would like you to, if you were talking to a new stroke survivor today, and their family, what would you say?
Do not lose hope.
There's a lot to take it away.
And it's, you know, even though I've just said that, I know that when you've just had the stroke, I mean, I know if that's me back in that hospital again, someone was going, "Don't lose hope, Louise, don't lose hope." I would be under my breath thinking, shut the F up in the moment.
Yeah,
But the reality, don't lose hope. So you've got a lot of emotions to sort out and get through, haven't you, until you can get to that phase.
that's a great way to finish up. Anything else you want to
Well, I've done enough talking. You know what I'm like, Ralph. We'll have to
add?
see NHS and Medicare again.
Yeah, we need to talk about that next show. We can do that. To our um, thank you, Louise, for reminding us that neuroplasticity never stops, and a personal positivity is a great thing to restore hope. That recovery is driven by challenge, purpose, and the brain's lifelong ability to adapt. You'll find your podcast on
Apple, Spotify, Amazon.
all of them,
Yeah.
pretty much. Okay. All right. Remember, everyone that's listening, your story matters. Your recovery is worth fighting for, and you are never alone on this path. Catch the wave. That's warriors achieving victories every day. If today's conversation inspired you, please share this episode with at least two people who could benefit. Together, we're strengthening the recovery community one conversation at a time. Bye, Louise.
Bye, Ralph.